Hello, I'm Mel Atkey. I'm the author of Broadway North and A Million Miles from Broadway, and I am a lecturer on all things musical theater. The American musical is not, in my view, a separate art form from its European parent, any more than American English is a separate language from British English. That said, the development of a distinctively American form of musical, like the changes in the language, was deliberate. For much of the first century of its existence, American music struggled for acceptance against the much more ubiquitous European forms. When America began to import musical comedies from Britain and Europe in the 19th century, they were filtered through their very American sensibilities. HMS Pinafore was wildly popular when first produced there, but not for entirely the same reasons as at home. It is inevitable, given the radically different milieu that the European immigrants found themselves in, that American music would begin to develop a voice of its own. The Broadway sound was established by the generation of Jewish and Irish immigrants who came to New York in the latter half of the 19th century. These people were outsiders with something to prove. Much is written about the klezmer sounds from Eastern Europe, whose improvisational nature made it an easy soulmate for jazz. Although his music doesn't sound particularly Celtic, George M. Cohan, a second-generation Irish-American who grew up on the vaudeville stage, gave his work an aggressive patriotic zeal.
Over there, send the word over there, that the Yanks are coming, the drums coming everywhere, so prepare, say a prayer, send the word to beware, we'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over.
Jaded by a war they had fought in only reluctantly, by the 1930s, Americans had become more culturally isolationist. Although this may have been, at its heart, a reactionary tendency, it also brought out a spirit of radicalism in the arts. One tangible result of this was the Works Progress Administration's federal music and federal theater programs. In 1935, composers like Aaron Copland and Mark Blitzstein were given grants to write music in an American style and on American subjects. Blitzstein wrote the left-wing agitprop musical The Cradle Will Rock, which was directed by Orson Welles for the Federal Theater. Although, due to its political content, WPA support was withdrawn.
Maybe you wonder what it is makes people good or bad. Why some guy, an ace without a doubt, turns out to be a bastard and the other way about. I'll tell you what I feel. sure the nickel's under your foot.
In 1942, conductor André Costolance commissioned Copland and Kern, among others, to write orchestral pieces based on American historical figures. Kern chose Mark Twain, while Copland ultimately settled on Abraham Lincoln. Broadway has always prided itself in being a melting pot made up largely of immigrants from Eastern Europe or of first-generation Americans. Irving Berlin was born in Russia but arrived in New York when he was a small child.
Tell me, Irving.
Yeah?
This is the funniest looking thing I ever saw. This is a piano?
Tony, that isn't a piano, that's the piano.
Oh, the piano.
This is the first piano I ever owned. It's what we call a transposing keyboard. Want to see how it works?
Yes.
Well, you see, I only play an F sharp in the black key, you see?
Oh, the black keys.
That's right. Now, with this...
Oh, that's wonderful. Could I see that again,
Yes,
please?
The keyboard is movable. It's very simple. Here it is.
Oh, that's remarkable.
Simple.
Irving, did you write your first song on this?
No, but I'll tell you what I did write on this. I wrote my first hit on it. Would you like to hear it?
Oh, I'd love to.
love it.
You're
Play it
kidding.
for
Really?
me. Do it.
Very corny. And
We
very...
don't care. It's early in the program.
Call me up some rainy afternoon. I'll arrange for a quiet little spoon. Think of all the joy and bliss. We can hug and we can talk about the weather. I'll arrange for a quiet little talk. And I'll see that my mother takes the walk. Mum's the word when we meet. Be a mason, don't repeat. Angel eyes, are you wise?
But what of the composers who had already received their training and begun their careers in their home countries? Victor Herbert was born in Dublin and at the age of 24 became the principal cellist in the court orchestra at Stuttgart before emigrating to the U.S., where he played with the orchestra of the Metropolitan Opera.
Mama is a queen and Papa is a king, so I am a princess and I know it. But court etiquette is a dull, dreary thing. I just hate it all, and I should. To sing on the stage about no one like for me. My figure's just like Ted Curtsey. I know I would sing if I'd sing in away that opera by Signor Puccini. I've roulottes and the trims that would send the cold chills down the backs of the hairs of my vocal friends. I want to be a prima donna. I want to be on the stage. I have the embonpoint to become the queen of song, and my figure would look pretty as a page. I want to be a screechy, preachy, contra preachy, like other club girls that I see. I hate society. I hate propriety. Art is calling for me.
More than anybody, it was Jerome Kern who, starting with his Princess Theater revues, brought maturity to the nascent American form. He studied at the Heidelberg Conservatory in Germany. Kern was, in fact, strongly influenced by the Central European operetta, for some of his earliest successes had been with songs interpolated into American productions of European musicals. Sometimes this involved travel to London, where he met and collaborated with future Jeeves author P.G. Wodehouse. It was in another show imported from London, a 1914 musical called the girl from Utah, that he introduced, they didn't believe me.
And when I told them how beautiful you are, they didn't believe me. They didn't believe me. Your lips, your eyes, your cheeks, your hair are in a class beyond compare. You're the loveliest girl I've ever seen. And when I tell them, and I'm certainly going to tell them, that I'm the man whose wife one day you'll be, they'll never believe me. They'll never believe me, that from this great big world you've chosen me.
In 1924, American author and playwright Edna Ferber watched as the opening performance of one of her plays was disrupted by some bats that had been living in the theater's ceilings. Her producer joked that, "Next time we won't bother with tryouts. We'll all charter a showboat and we'll just drift down the rivers playing the towns as we come to them." This was the first that Ferber had heard of showboats, the floating theaters that traveled up and down the Mississippi and other rivers. Intrigued, she booked herself onto the James Adams Floating Theater and turned her experience into a novel published in 1926. This, in turn, came to the attention of Jerome Kern and librettist Oscar Hammerstein II. Initially, Ferber had reservations about the idea of turning her novel into a musical until Kern convinced her of the seriousness of his plans. Showboat is often cited as the beginning of the modern American musical. For the first time, music and lyrics were in service to the book. After Kern and Hammerstein had written the song Cotton Blossom, Hammerstein realized he needed a song for the stevedore, Joe. He suggested to Kern that he take the melody for Cotton Blossom, reverse the notes, and slow it down. It became
Old Man River, that old man River, he must know something, but don't say nothing. He just keeps rolling, he keeps on rolling along. He don't plant potatoes, he don't plant cotton, them that plants them is soon forgotten. But old man River, he just keeps rolling along.
Lynn Riggs was a part Native American poet and playwright who wrote his best-known play, Green Grow the Lilacs, while living in France on a Guggenheim Fellowship. It was produced by the Theatre Guild in 1931, where it ran in New York for 2 months. It also mounted a brief tour of the Midwest, but is best remembered as the basis for Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein's first professional musical together. Originally titled Away We Go, the expectations were low, especially since they ditched the practically mandatory opening chorus in favor of an a cappella cowboy singing about the weather.
There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. The corn is as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like it's climbing clear up to the sky. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, standing like statues. Hey, all the cattle are standing like statues. They don't turn their heads as they see me ride by. But a little brown maverick is winking her eye. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way.
However, when it opened in New York, produced once more by the Theatre Guild under its new title, Oklahoma, it received rave reviews and sold out houses. It is often claimed that Oklahoma revolutionized the musical theater through its insistence that the songs forward the plot. It was not, in fact, the first show to do this. Porgy and Bess shared the same producer and director, but it was the one that finally broke the mold.